it's Bobby G with my predictions for the upcoming UFC 169 pay-per-view Saturday night. Now, hopefully you took a minute to read my preview of the three main fights on that card, and now's where I get to the part where I actually pick the winners. And I'll say this, in the past, my predictions usually are way off. Now, I watch a lot of MMA. I'm a big fan of the UFC. I know a lot about these fighters and fighting and whatnot. So you would think that I know what I'm talking about, but yet my predictions, they always seem to be wrong. So just keep that in mind. I have made some notes here because I want to get to a couple things here. So if you see me looking down, that's why. Let's start with Frank Mir and Alistair Overeem. I'm a fan of Frank Mir. I got a chance to meet him once, and he seems like a nice guy. Not that Alistair isn't. I just don't know the dude. So I'm pulling for Frank in this fight, but I'm not sure if he has much of a chance. He has shown some improved conditioning over his last couple fights. He actually went the distance with Daniel Cormier, who is a really good fighter. But Frank's chin continues to be his weak spot. In fact, 82% of his losses have come by knockout. But the same could also be said for Alistair Overeem, who has lost 62% of his fights by knockout, including his last two fights. But having said that, I don't think Frank is going to be able to find Alistair's chin. Alistair is a world-class striker, and I think it's going to be too much for Frank. And like I said, as much as I'd like to see Frank win this fight, I think he's going to lose. I think it's going to end by knockout or ref stoppage, and I'm not even sure if they make it out of the first round. Moving on to the co-main event of the night with Jose Aldo versus Ricardo Lamas. I'm going to keep this one fairly short and sweet. And I'll be honest when I say I don't know a whole lot about Ricardo Lamas, but I don't know if I need to because Jose Aldo is right there at the top of the list for pound best fighters in the world. He's number 2 actually, right behind Johnny Bones Jones. And so I think he's going to win this fight. The only question is, how will he win this fight? It's not going to go the distance. I think it's actually going to go into the championship rounds, and I predict that Jose Aldo will win by ref stoppage somewhere in the 4th round. That sounds good, right? On to the main event of the night between Renan Barão and Uriah Faber. Now, before I get to my pick, I want to remind folks that when you're talking about Brazilian fighters in the Portuguese language, the letter R has an H sound, especially if it's the first letter in the word. So, although it looks like it would be pronounced Renan Barão, it's actually Renan Barão, just like Royce Gracie is not pronounced Royce Gracie. So there's a little Portuguese. Actually, that's the only Portuguese I know. So let's move on. Back to the fight. This is a really tough one for me to call. And if you could guarantee me that Uriah Faber would fight like he has fought in all of his fights in 2013, I would probably pick him right off the bat. But the fact is, I've seen Uriah fight in title fights before, and it seems to it's not the same guy out there. And I wonder if that's the pressure of winning a UFC belt, which is, he's never won a UFC belt before, and I wonder if that weighs on his mind. And I wonder if that makes him change the way he approaches his fight. But he is without a doubt one of the hottest fighters going right now. He's had a ridiculous 2013 ever since he started working with his new striking coach, Dwayne Bang Ludwig. He's just been a totally different fighter. But across the octagon, though, is a guy who just kind of quietly goes about his business and just destroys guys. While Uriah Faber is one of the most recognizable fighters in the world, not a lot of casual fans know who this Renan Barão guy is, but I can tell you, he's a guy that hasn't lost a fight since 2005. He just goes in there and gets the job done. So it's a super tough fight to pick. I do think this one's going to go the distance, all 5 rounds. But who's going to win? I'd like to see Uriah win for a couple reasons. I'd like to see him finally get a UFC belt. And if he does win and it's close, then that would guarantee a 3rd fight between these two. It'll be the rubber match. So I think I'm going to go ahead and pick Uriah. Toss my notes there. I'm going to pick Uriah Faber to win by decision in the main event on Saturday night. Watch the fights. Come back on Monday and ridicule me for being so completely wrong on my picks. Later.